Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies both new and old with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to avoid lazy negativity, we've decided to make this episode a little bit of a drinking game.
A little bit.
Just
A little bit of this. So anytime we say anything negative at all about this film, about each other, we're going to play this sound.
Quietly.
And that sound means that at least one of us has to take a drink. And we hope one of you drinks along with us.
So, pour yourselves a glass. We're going to talk about a movie all the way back in the 60s that poses the unanswered question, where's Joe Buck? Where is Joe Buck indeed?
Cheers. Pre-show shot down the hatch, people. Getting the juices flowing here. We are drinking for real.
Everybody from film school, everybody who's in film school at the moment just leaned out of their sofa like Leonardo pointing at the screen going, they're doing Midnight Cowboy.
That's right. I hope so. Yeah, but we are talking. We're talking
Oh.
about Midnight Cowboy. 1969 was pulled on the random year generator. And so, in a couple minutes here, if you want to check the timestamps below, if that's the only reason you're here and you don't want to hear us talk about anything else, skip ahead to the timestamp below, and we are going to give you a little setup. What was going on in film in 1969? What was going on in the world in 1969? I bet you're going to hear a little bit about NASA. And then we're going to talk about John Schlesinger's Midnight Cowboy,
NASA!
which has been deemed culturally or artistically, it's been preserved in the National Archives.
Yes.
A movie about a man who wants to make money fucking has been preserved by the National Archives.
Does it have a trigger warning in front of it? Because this does have outdated themes and language.
Yes, for sure. Although we'll talk about that because somebody who's using that language may, be talking about himself a little bit. So we can talk about that in a second. Of course, we're going to do some gripes. Tell you what we've been up to before we get into that segment, the 1969 segment. We have a YouTube, of course. Dave set that up. Dave also does our editing and producing here on the show. So if anything sounds like shit, you can go ahead. That's at Dave Green.
If anything sounds like shit, it's Jeff leaning the fuck away from his microphone again.
I'm leaning away.
Dude, I heard you on Matt and Mark. You sound like you were at a toilet.
Eat the mic.
I do have bad mic technique whenever I'm on Matt and Mark. That's sure. I usually record in the toilet.
Did I call them Matt and Mike?
John, you want to shout our
Matt and Mike movie show.
We actually have some sponsors, people. John, you want to shout them out?
We do. One of them goes by the name of Carlos Barroso. He makes beer. He's our beer sponsor. You can find him at the handle cbarroso.beer, link in the show notes. We also have a music artist in residence that goes by the name Dustin. That's Dustin, Dasein. You can find them in the show notes as well, but you can also find all their music available on all the usual music platforms. Let me slow down.
You just sounded like the Austin Powers fembot that got sped up and never left.
That's how every track finishes. That's all, folks.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Warner Brothers
pretty
League will
good.
be in touch. Oh, no, wait.
Dustin
Warner
is
Brothers
there.
doesn't give a fuck about Looney Tunes
Wait, how did you
anymore.
go from Dustin? We just went from Porky Pig and then Dustin.
You gotta pivot.
Oh my
By
God.
the way, you guys, I am gonna say this on air. Have you ever searched Ross Friends in Google and seen what comes up?
No.
You're welcome. You're welcome, all listeners. I don't want to give it away. Search Ross Friends on Google and then touch the couch that comes up, the little Google icon, and enjoy yourself. I don't want to give it away.
Yeah.
Are you doing it right now live? You're doing it?
I don't see the.
Don't
I
do
don't
it
see
during the
couch.
show.
I don't see the couch.
The fuck is wrong with you?
What?
What do you mean?
don't
I can
see
do
the
it.
couch?
I can do whatever the fuck I want. What?
You see the tiny little couch next to his name on the search page?
I actually don't. Well,
We're eating up time here, but listeners, play with the couch and you'll have fun. If anybody's a
play
Friends
with the
fan,
couch.
maybe
Okay,
laugh.
I'll figure it out. I'll figure out what the fuck you're talking about. Okay.
About 3 o'clock in the morning, we're going to get a text. I figured it out.
I can't wait.
Dave, hey Dave, should I grab that clip? Was that an all-timer? that's just
Dave's been
folks.
helping
We
out
have a
with
new
our social
feature
media
on our buttons. We have a new abuse of power situation here, where all three of us now have the ability to mark a clip that we think is significant enough for Dave to put on our social media.
It's probably usually going to be when someone sounds particularly stupid.
Oh no, that would never happen. I would
hope
never
so.
do that to you guys. Would never do it. I'm gonna wait till you're nice and powerful. I'm gonna grab my own clips.
What's your powerful? All right. I definitely have a gripe. Does anybody else have any? Oh, you know what's funny? You have to search in Google. So oh my God.
He opened with that.
Whoa. No,
Isn't that fun?
I use Firefox. Oh my God.
Dude, so pivot. That's why I said it
was loud. It just shouted in my headphones really loudly. Okay.
Sure.
This is good. This is good audio.
Yeah,
What the hell are we talking about?
audio.
Okay,
What
so
are we talking about?
So we're gonna be talking about Midnight Cowboy soon. I have a gripe. John, you saw Dune, but you're gonna wait until Dave and I see it next week. Is that right, Dune 2? We'll just assume it was
Sure.
awesome.
Or I can give a very gentle, quick mini review, but we can also all three talk about it next week if you'd
All right,
prefer.
let's tease. I want a mini. I want a teaser for your mini review.
My hand is on the button that doesn't just buzz you; it fucking hangs you up.
My hand's on the button too, but it's a different button.
Okay, mini
Hands on the
review
table, Jeff.
of Denis Villeneuve's Dune 2. I think, generally speaking, people are going to respond to this, the monolithic audience of people, the way they did to the first one. I think if you enjoyed the first one, you're probably going to enjoy this one. If you're somebody who's never read the book and you didn't really attach emotionally to what was happening, you might feel the same way. If you loved the first one, I think you're going to really love this one. It's just
Okay,
like a wonderful continuation.
One thing I need to know: did they put them in different uniforms this time? So like Matt and Mark can see who's fighting who.
Come on, dude. It's so fucking. They clarify some of that stuff. Just the gigantic epic filmmaking. I mean, folks, it's anyone who knows this story. Like, you're gonna see all those kinds of giant battle shots that you think you're gonna be seeing in a movie like this. Hans Zimmer's gonna do crazy loud music moments and crazy loud sound design. So it is worth.
That is one time you're allowed to lean back from the microphone.
Do a large format. Do a large format for sure. Anyway, I'm curious to hear what you guys think. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, I was toying with whether to go and see it in IMAX because I saw the first one in IMAX. But I know it's filmed for IMAX, not in IMAX.
Ah, those fuckers.
So I'm not sure if I'm going to gain anything by going and see it in IMAX. Although
I saw it in just Dolby Atmos.
I must remember. I must say when I was sitting in Lincoln Center and that worm came out of the first one, and it was 4 stories tall, my chin was on my fucking chest. So I don't know. I'm
Pretty
still.
crazy.
I don't know which. I mean, I can't get into IMAX for 3 weeks, so it's probably not going to be IMAX.
3:30 a.m. Dave sent us a message, and he was like, "You know, a lot of people are going to see this movie when at 3:30 in the morning, the IMAX is like 85% full."
And
Row A and B
they
were
are
the only
really-
free ones though in that photo, I think.
He's going to make a lot of money for sure. This is the one tiny little filmmaking, just fun thing that I'll leave you guys to think about as you watch it. I think one of the most beautiful technical achievements, Greg Fraser was a cinematographer, and I can't remember whose credit is the editor, but the way they transition from scene to scene with visual contrast is pretty jarring and in a wonderful and powerful, are we on another planet kind of way. I'll just leave that to you guys as you guys go watch it next week. The contrast is unreal. The way they move from scene to scene visually, the actual cutting. Anyway,
Cool.
yeah, go see it so we can talk about it.
Okay.
You know what? I don't think that theme is in there a single time. Actually, I think that just belongs to Dune 1.
Oh fuck. All right. Well, I'm really losing our audience here. Hey. Dave, I have a gripe. Dave, do you have a gripe before we get into our
I don't.
featured segment?
I don't. It's been a good week.
Wow. All right, I got a gripe. So you can go ahead and set the gripe timer, and we'll see what happens. Okay, this is an Apple TV gripe, and I'm pissed. Apple TV, they need to stop needing me to verify that it's me by using one, but only one of my Apple devices. So if I'm on Apple TV and I try to make a purchase, it's like, well, check your Apple device. And to confirm it's you. I have an Apple Watch, I have 2 iPads, I have my laptop, and I have my phone, and it doesn't tell me which one it is, but it's only one of them. So it's like I'm on a fucking Easter egg hunt every single time I want to do something on my computer. So I'm wearing my watch. No, my phone is somewhere like buried in my couch cushion, and it's like,
your
no.
phone, dude.
No, it's not. The other day it was my old iPad and I needed to like dive after it. So it's like I'm doing fucking Where's Waldo in the house just so I could download Tubi, which is a fucking platform that is free. It's free. I know. So I'm literally trying to download Tubi to watch this movie because Pluto and Tubi are the only two places I could rent it, but fuck it. And I'm literally like dashing around my apartment like I'm a fucking like I'm in the fucking Harry Potter maze or something. Like I'm bobbing for fucking apples because it won't just use all of my Apple devices. What a game that it's making me play.
It is really annoying. That didn't start until like last year, right? Like there used to be a setting where you could be like, on my Apple TV, don't make me affirm it's me. Don't check my password. When I hit purchase on this Apple TV, I haven't set it. It still makes me confirm my purchase. I don't have to enter a password, but it makes me confirm on another Apple device. It's like the whole point is so that if I'm not in the house, somebody can do it.
They just change the rules all the time. So I know they're like, oh, they have this setting. Oh, they have this. But then in a month, they're going to change the way they do things anyway. It used to be my watch every time. And it's never my phone anymore, which is so dumb because I'm way more likely to have my phone unless I left my phone in that obvious place, like on top of my coffee machine or in my bathroom vanity that I know I would definitely remember. And then later I'm like, why would I put my black phone on top of my black coffee machine as if I would know that I would put it there? Or my
black phone.
I had it in my freezer one time. But it's never. Another gripe. You're not allowed to fucking tell me I have 5% off my next 10 rides with a $5 maximum total. 5% off. First of all, 5% off my rides, maximum $5. What it usually means is that I get to save $1. Like, come on, that's not worth them fucking advertising this for me. So, and also, it expired in 6 days. So my next 10 rides in 6 days, what they're trying to get me to do is ride as much as possible, and they're only going to give me fucking $5 back. These pieces of shit. They always tell me this, and it's like 5% off. First of all, 5% off my Lyft ride? Why the fuck would I give a shit about that? Why would I say, oh my God, I get to save 5%? Well, oh my God, what a hero. $20. What's 5%? Who cares? It's savings.
They cap it at 5% because it's like when you let someone into the traffic and you're like, and the next guy goes, and you're like, fuck it, I said 1.
5% is a horseshit deal. You're not allowed to give me an advertisement for a 5% off my Lyft ride. That's going to be $18. Bastards.
Chris Hurt, friend of the show, editor friend we've had on a couple times. So we were in a Lyft with him the other night and he looks over and he was like, oh my God. And he showed us up in the air style, he had just crossed 1,000 Lyft rides.
What?
Yeah, we're like, holy shit, dude.
Well, average ride in LA. What's the average ride? $30? So that's $30,000. Like, what is?
I don't think. Yeah, right. I don't think anyone could even find the fucking subway in LA, and like $30,000. Could you imagine?
If you're in LA, like at least in New York, sometimes I take it like 20 blocks. But if you're in LA, you're going at least 5 miles.
Probably, you're right, dude. Yeah. You're right.
Just down the road is half an hour.
Around that long. I don't even remember when Lyft started. I know Uber was in. I thought about Uber first for sure in New York. They were the only ones I ever thought of.
By the way, I'm griping, but you got to get Uber One and you got to get Lyft Pink. It's worth it. They're both worth it. You save 5%.
Subscription?
You save 5% always. I don't know. It kind of comes with the city bike. I paid a little.
Yeah, more. It's a subscription.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. So this has nothing to do with movies.
These are two great. Fuck you, big tech. Yeah. Uber and Apple making our lives difficult.
Recurring theme here for
get your shit together, Apple.
Yeah, this is for the big tech. Take a drink, tech. Drink. Let's talk about the year.
I have another big tech one, but it's for another time.
Yeah, no. You get buzzed for unauthorized griping.
Dave is wearing his 1969 shirt.
Dave, what does your shirt say for our? Because it's a visual.
Well, it says Nassar, and it's got obviously 2 people fucking on it.
And to be clear, Dave said Nassar, which is not Larry Nassar, who is a sexual predator. He was saying NASA, but he's Australian, and so the.
Go fuck yourself. How's that for fucking Australian?
I had that fired up until you said the guy's fucking joke, and then I hesitated if I should say that or not. What a monster. Who's in prison, by the way. Okay. Let's move on. 1969. Let's head into the film year.
I just hit grab.
No, I meant save the show, not save the clip.
Oh my God! Almighty,
yeah, we need to save the show. Wait, what did I do with the Midnight Cowboy notes? Okay, it doesn't matter, guys. Here we are, 1969. Let's go ahead and do our usual guess as to what the highest grossing film in 1969 was. And I'll remind everybody, whenever we're before 1977,
Wait, you're not going to talk to us about the year?
Well, I'm going to get there, but we always start with what do you think the highest grossing movie of 1969
Oh, do we always start with that?
Yeah.
With our
So
show
1969, we talked about a couple movies last week privately when we were deciding on this movie. What was the highest grossing movie of 1969, according to Box Office Mojo, accepting that these numbers are probably bullshit?
Oh my God, dude. Dave, do you have any guess at all?
Give me a guess.
I'm going to guess.
I wasn't even born.
Butch Cassidy?
Butch Cassidy is number one! John! Holy
Yes,
shit,
dude.
John gets the award. I get to throw you.
I'll drink.
Butch Cassidy and
That's your reward.
Oops, wait, wait.
Whoa, double gush.
somebody-
What?
Your eternal
Double gushed.
reward.
Shit. That's right. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, according to, it was a 20th Century Fox release, according to Box Office Mojo, $29 million in 1969. And this is back when milk cost a nickel. So, you know, it's pretty damn good. The Love Bug, the Buena Vista Pictures release, came out at $21 million for number two.
It was
And guess
not
what, guys?
herpes. It was Herbie.
Guess what?
God almighty. Nassar.
And guess what, guys? Midnight Cowboy, a United Artists release, comes in at number 3 with $20,500,000.
Holy shit.
And I believe half of that went to Dustin Hoffman, but I could be wrong. Easy Rider comes in at number 4. Guys, this is independent filmmaking taking off. Thank you, 1969. So all those 1969 movies, let's invest in independent artists. Took a little year gap, and 68 was a good year, but 69 looks like it's coming to fruition until we get to Hello Dolly at number 5. Which comes in at $15 million. Also, in the year 1969, in April, which is when the Oscars were for the previous year. That's right, fucking April, to all of us complaining that the Oscars are so late in March. April, Hello Dolly stars Barbra Streisand, who tied with Katharine Hepburn for the Oscar for, of course,
Guess
Funny Girl,
who's
the year before,
Funny Girl. Oh, wow.
another musical the year before. So she was in that. So obviously good timing for her that she had Hello Dolly coming out this year right after winning an Oscar for a different musical. Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice at Columbia Pictures comes in at 6. Paint Your Wagon, number 7, which did star Clint Eastwood, who was like, I don't want to just be the guy from the TV show. I don't want to just be the guy in the Spanish, Italian Westerns. I want to be the guy who's singing in Westerns. He's there at number 7 in Paint Your Wagon.
Jesus.
True Grit comes in at number 8.
I feel like that sat at a
John Wayne.
level equal with Pierce Brosnan in Mamma Mia.
Similar, probably, honestly. Cactus Flower comes in at number 9, and Goodbye Columbus. Goodbye Columbus,
was
an
not a
adaptation
compliment.
of the Philip Roth novella, which, by the way, Philip
Nice.
Roth novella is all about puberty, and they cut that shit out. They definitely did not justify the book. A couple other things to talk about in the film year. Judy Garland did pass away from accidental barbiturate overdose in London.
Aw.
You have Elvis Presley released his final film, Change of Habit, came out this year.
That's ironic.
Dave, Jack and Jill, a postscript, becomes the first feature film to receive an Australian Film Institute award. The Australian Film Institute first awards were this year. And, I thought I was gonna burp. There it is. Al Pacino's film debut in Me, Natalie comes out this year. So anybody say he just appeared in The Godfather? He'd already had a Tony and already had some movies. It was just the fact that he was acting with Brando and the fact that he was short, being a fucking leading man. That was surprising to everybody. And of course, I'll say the Tate murders. No, I don't want to, not to talk about Charles Manson, even though I just said his name. So Sharon Tate, 26-year-old, that did happen this year. That incident, unfortunate. At the Oscars, Midnight Cowboy did win Best Picture, Best Director. But that's only 2 of 3 awards that they won. They did spread the wealth, including, and this is bullshit, by the way. I'm going to say this. John Wayne wins Best Actor. Now, I love John Wayne. He's a legend. But get the fuck out of here. Rooster Cogburn. Guess who he's up against? You ready? Richard Burton,
Jeez.
Dustin Hoffman, Peter O'Toole, and John Voight. But apparently John Wayne acted circles around them as Rooster Cogburn in True Grit. When he's like, I don't want to go to Arkansas.
It's an honor to be nominated along these men.
You know when someone
With
when
that
someone
eye patch?
yeah, you know when someone can't do something and then suddenly they can do something? Maybe that was what an award was for.
I think he just done so many Westerns and they're like, this is a good one. And
Just
maybe
like
Dustin
Most
Hoffman and
Improved.
Voight.
It's like,
and
oh yeah,
split
most
votes.
improved.
Most
Look,
improved.
The most
yeah.
improved Oscar
He did it.
goes to.
Most
He did his
improved.
job well. It's just those are some iconic performances he's up there competing with.
Yo,
Jesus.
Richard Burton played King Henry VIII.
Yeah.
And Peter O'Toole and Goodbye, Mr. Chips. I mean, it's like, anyway.
Yeah.
By the way, Maggie
What a
Smith
movie.
wins her first Oscar. Just as a reminder to everybody, Maggie Smith has 2 Oscars, 4 Emmys, 5 BAFTAs, Tony Award. Like, Maggie Smith is a fucking legend.
She's a treasure.
She also has a bunch of Olivier Awards. Her first win was for The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie, where she plays Jean Brodie, of course. And she was like in her early 30s. So go ahead and picture Maggie Smith in her early 30s.
I'm pretty sure she also once beat Chuck Norris in a fight.
True.
Maggie
Yeah.
Smith.
Goldie Hawn was
Honestly,
very young when she won
Starting it.
her supporting
Starting it.
actress for Cactus Flower, and Gig Young won for They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Which is what Goldie Jane Fonda was in They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Which is Sidney Lumet. No, who is it? It's I had this ready to go. I have it right here. Director. God damn it. Fuck.
I got it.
Who is it? Who directed it?
It's Sidney Pollack. You're right.
Sidney Pollack. Palme d'Or went to If,
Oh, you said
directed by
Lumet? Yeah.
If, directed by Lindsay Aronson, and The Golden Bear at the Berlin went to Ronnie Radovi, directed by, I can't pronounce that, Yugoslavia director. Okay, a couple other, Butch Cassidy, Bird Bacharach won his first of 3 Oscars for Raindrops Are Falling on My Head, and he also wrote the score to this movie. What a fucking legend. Waldo Salt from Midnight Cowboy won the screenplay Oscar for adapted screenplay, so that's the 3rd Oscar for this. And then William Goldman, legend of the screenwriters, won for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Enough about awards. Other movies that came out this year were awesome. You can talk about them in a second. Things in the world, really quick though. There were actually, we talk about, so this is the year we landed on the moon, right? Obviously, right? Apollo 11 mission. That was right just after 4th of July. There were actually 4 Apollo missions this year. Apollo 9, 10, 11, and 12 all launched in the year 1969. Thank you, JFK.
Wow.
Lots of Vietnam and Cold War stuff that it's too sad to get into. Woodstock attracts 350,000 rock and roll fans to upstate New York. Not in the town of Woodstock, by the way, but also Atlanta had 100,000 people. The Isle of Wight had 150,000 people. So a lot of big festivals were happening in 1969. The music scene was taking off. A lot of it was a response to Vietnam. The Stonewall riots in New York City marked the beginning of the gay rights movement. The Beatles record Abbey Road after Paul dies. That's an inside joke for you Beatles fans out there. The first ever computer-to-computer link is established on ARPANET, the precursor to the internet, 1969, the first ever computer-to-computer link. The U.S. Air Force project Blue Book was concluded, which concluded that there was no evidence of UFOs. Those fucking liars.
And they put that straight on ARPANET, and like everybody argued with them.
Yeah, and then the only other person who heard it was the other computer that ARPANET was connected to, because it was one other person. PBS was established. The Chappaquiddick affair happened with Senator Edward Kennedy. You want to talk about the Kennedy-Chippewa issue for you people? It's pretty crazy. Yasser Arafat takes over as the PLO. It's a little sensitive topic nowadays. A river catches fire in Ohio, drawing national attention to water pollution, which helps create the Clean Water Act and the EPA.
And despite that, not the last time a river catches fire in this country.
Sure. And then the Concorde broke speed records. The Concorde, the aircraft that is now defunct, but it probably should come back because there's a lot of wealthy people that would like to fly from fucking
the reason it was
Paris
shut down was
an
because it also broke about 300 passengers.
Good point. Other movies that came out this year, I think I spoke enough. Charlie Brown, A Boy Named Charlie Brown. The first Charlie Brown movie came out this year. Obviously, Easy Rider was one that came up on the list. We talked about that before. Matt and Mark really wanted us to do that. Matt and Mark, it's just not going to happen. All right, it's just, you can get off our back. Alice's Restaurant, the Arlo Guthrie movie, which was directed by Arthur Penn, his first movie after fucking another movie we talked about recently, Bonnie and Clyde. Anything else you want to talk about? Any other? The original Italian Job with Steve McQueen was a big hit. Anything else you want to call out?
No, let's get on with it.
All right, Dave Zancy, John.
Dave Zancy. There's 3 quick mentions. Army of Shadows by Louis. How do you say his last name? The French director that I love so much, Melville, Jean-Pierre Melville. And then we have Sam Peckinpah's fucking Wild Bunch that I saw last summer here on the theater. That movie is nuts. You guys should totally watch that movie. It's fucking violent as hell. It's really incredible. And Costa Gavras's Z. Anyone who's into like political movies, it's like Battle of Algiers and Z, were like the 2 like first like, oh my God, these are incredible movies. And they're dealing with like these really intense political issues that I think really like struck a chord. And even there are other, Manchurian Candidate and stuff, but those two movies I feel like really stand the test of time and are still kind of temples in that genre, and they are worth fucking watching still today.
I think we should also really say that Jack Nicholson became, he literally went from the D-list to the A-list with Easy Rider, nominated for an Oscar.
I'll tell you a quick little anecdote about that. And apparently in his biography, he literally, before he walked the Cannes Film Festival, because he helped edit that movie as well, guys. He was working for the production company that was helped associated with it. So when he went down there initially, he was going to go down there to replace Rip Torn in the role that he eventually played, and he was going to be able to have his hands on the film. So apparently he helped wrestle like a crazy hours and hours long cut with Dennis Hopper down to something a little bit more manageable, cut himself into it more. And apparently as he is about to walk the red carpet at Cannes, he calls his real estate agent and says, buy the house. I'm going to be a superstar tomorrow. How fucking badass is that, dude? He called it. He knew it. That's pretty cool.
It would be a great story of the opposite. if
If
it didn't work out.
Yeah, it'd be a fucking behind the music episode if it didn't work out.
I don't think we would be talking about him if the opposite happened.
Touche.
Anyway,
his next movie would be 5 Easy Pieces, so I think it all worked out. Okay, here we go. Are you ready to talk about 1969's Midnight Cowboy? I'll do the setup really quick. John Schlesinger, again, Waldo Salt did the adaptation of the James Leo Herlihy novel of the same name. Schlesinger, we should mention, has already, he was, this time period that he was an independent filmmaker, so United Artists really took off in this time period. It was already going around. He would eventually do Marathon Man with Hoffman, who was not his first choice. He really wanted Pacino. Funny. The Pacino-Hoffman feud of the 70s started actually way back here. But he had already, done really well with other movies at the time, including fucking, I'm stalling because I have to scroll down, you bastard. You fucking, okay, here we go. He had done Darling and Far From the Maddening Crowd. He had done, that was his previous film right before this. Billy Liar, he was obviously around a lot, but then after Midnight Cowboy, Sunday Bloody Sunday, and then Marathon Man, Scoot Ahead, Yanks, and then I think that the real big one was Coming Home. That was a big one for him. But anyway, moving on.
Coming Home is good. I also really I'll just shout out, the only early one I've seen of his is A Kind of Loving. It takes place in Enfield, north of London. And it's a really, really wonderful movie. He had already made 8 features, right? Before he, 1, 2,
that's about right.
8,
yeah.
But 5 or 6 before he really got into this prime. I mean, he was just he was working so much. It's just the kind of careers that we don't really see that much anymore. Not to get too ahead of ourselves, but so much pressure nowadays, I feel is on if you're going to make these kinds of independent films, your first one better hit or you may never make another movie again. And these just a good kind of a representation of a director who came. Anyway,
and then you see those other ones where the movies never hit, but they've got a string of credits a mile long, and it's how are people getting funding for this?
Honestly,
damn funding, because he went to a lot of those parties that you see in this film, probably. But yeah, Coming Home, of course, directed by Hal Ashby and written by Waldo Salt, the co-writer of this. But anyway, yes, let us segue into Midnight Cowboy. I think we get the pitch, and everybody's talking at
Oh my god! Okay, was it a thing in the '60s to just buy one song and play it over and over and over and over again?
What was used more, Live and Let Die, this, or Simon and Garfunkel doing Sound of Silence over and over again? Not Mrs. Robinson, fucking Sound of Silence.
I mean, I think it was this, because Live and Let Die, at least when they did it, they did different versions of the songs sometimes.
And it was in the 70s. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
This was the same shit. And Bonnie and Clyde, they did that over and over again. But not, this was different. This definitely cut different. They did the same song 7 times in this movie. Okay.
Only for the first hour, and then it went away for 20 minutes.
We'll talk about the anecdotes.
John Barrymore's theme on that song too, the actual score that John Barrymore did to this movie, using bits of that song, is fucking beautiful.
So I think we get the pitch. Hoffman is playing Rizzo Ratzo, or Enrico Rizzo, right? And then John Voight plays,
Rizzo.
And then John Voight plays Joe Buck, from Texas. A couple of anecdotes that I heard about that coming up later in the show here. And then we got to shout out John McGiver, who plays Mr. O'Daniel.
Oh my God.
Who, by the way, I just have to say,
God.
he's the guy that, well, we'll talk about it. He thinks that he's a pimp, but he actually is a born-again Christian. Rizzo's fucking ripping off John Voight. But he has 10 kids in real life, John McGiver. He had 10 kids. He had 10 children. Can you imagine? Daddy's got to go to work today. What's he doing? This. Can you imagine?
So much about him.
He is highlighting the golden rule of living in New York. If he answers the door in a bathrobe, you don't go inside.
Come in, my son. Come in.
I can't buzz that, Dave. It's so good. There's so many good things. Come in, my son. My son. Oh, let's pray. Let's pray together. Okay. So let me give you the pitch, and then I'll send it off to you guys so I can shut the fuck up and listen to you. Are you ready? 1969, Midnight Cowboy. A naive hustler, this is John Voight's character, travels from Texas to New York City to seek personal fortune, finding a new friend in the process. What I'm assuming we've all seen this before. So
Nope,
two
first time.
questions. Are you serious?
Yep. I said that last week. I've never seen this.
Okay, so first two questions. When was the last time you saw this, and or why? What's wrong with you? And all right, I love in Australia. Dave's gonna be like, because we didn't give a shit about the AFI list. That's like Dave's like favorite go-to line. When was the last time you saw this, or why didn't you see it? And what did you think of this watch?
Dave, you go first, dude. Yeah, it was your first time.
I'm not sure this got an Australian release, or certainly not in like any time when I was going to the movies.
This New York City grunge film didn't get that Australian release?
And it didn't get played after that. That was it. It came and went. So that's probably why I never saw it, because we're certainly not going to pick it up on home video.
Not a great drive-through movie, by the way, for a drive-in movie.
Fair. Yeah.
Was there a rating system in Australia?
There is, and it's almost similar. You don't have to bribe as many people. But it's, I mean, famously, this was originally rated X.
Right. Yeah, I didn't know if it
when it was released, because
Yeah.
X-rated used to be what R-rated was until the porn industry went hold my beer and fucked up the grading curve.
And
Yeah,
the
watch
film
this.
industry went, thank you.
Yes. Okay, that was the first question. Why haven't I seen it? And it was funny because I didn't really want to watch this as much. I was like, I don't know, it's 60s, it's 69. And
Did you get mad at John for making you?
We had
move
no, not really.
Yeah,
No,
sure.
No, I get mad at John for other things.
Other things.
It was.
Well, it could be both things. You don't have to choose.
So- you don't have to
moving the
crave
dial back
attention,
to
mate.
film
It's all
school
right.
era?
No, I was like, yeah, all right, we'll get through this, whatever. And I waited till like the last minute. I watched it like this afternoon, and I rented it, and then I'm sitting there and watching it, and it got me good.
Good.
So yeah, it was sort of like, granted, by the time we got to the 7th version of that fucking song, I was like, stop using the song, and I think they heard me. So like, there's that, but yeah, there's laughing bits. Once you get captured into the story, it really grabs you and carries on. Like I said, there's a couple of outdated things here and there, but
Yeah.
it was appropriate at the time, so you would leave it alone. Well, it wasn't appropriate at the time, but it was done at the time.
The year of the Stonewall riots, yeah, but it was filmed before.
There was a interesting thing that like they really captured like his loneliness and disconnection. Like they nailed it when he first came to New York. And like
you say his Joe Bucks.
Yeah, Joe Bucks. It that kind of spoke to me because like I moved to New York, having never been here before. Walked in, and when I came here and tried to be a gigolo, I felt just as lonely. As
Sorry.
Does that make one of us as Rizzo?
Yeah,
It actually makes so much sense. I just want Dave to drink. Go ahead. But like, I'm fascinated. I want you to keep going.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was just the scenes of like where you come in and the culture that you've come from doesn't apply here. Like this is a city that can come across as quite rude and stuff like that, and they telegraph that really well. But like, then there's also such an artistic underbelly, and like I remember saying to you guys there were times when I go up at 5 o'clock in the morning walking to the street to work, and I'm walking down the street, and there's like guys helping people with stuff and like a whole neighborhood feel. So that's not the piece that anyone notices from the outside. So I'm wondering, was this written by someone who didn't live in New York?
Interesting.
because it really was abrupt and real. Maybe that's what New York was like in the 60s. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy the movie.
Dave, that's
God, that makes me so happy, man.
I literally just want an hour on this, Dave, like for just you talking. That's awesome.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to keep squeezing that lemon? I didn't know if there were the loneliness. Like, I'll keep.
There were so many things, like little things, like on the montage of like him getting on the bus and all the characters he met on the bus, and it establishes him as an endearing character who means well. And the rest of the world's not quite sure how to take him. And like he's got that radio and he keeps listening to the radio. And that used to be one of my favorite things to do whenever I was driving across Australia. Because the second you leave the city, like you turn on the radio and like scan for a station because you hear some weird shit out there and it's hilarious sometimes. So I'd have the radio just bouncing from channel to channel to channel, listen to that sort of stuff. So I was like, yeah.
Oh, hear that, ma'am?
Yeah.
That's New York talking.
Yeah.
When he gets close, yeah.
Well, yeah, because it changed, because I actually drove back on a Sunday from a bachelor party in the Bible Belt, and I turned on the radio because I couldn't stream my phone. Like I had no service, so I turned it on my car, and that was like the closest thing I could get to this, because it's like everything was very churchy, and there were there's different levels of that. There's some church that is this church and that, but it was like Sunday morning and I couldn't get my phone, so I had to listen to the radio, and
it gets pretty churchy out in the middle of Australia too. Like it's.
But the local, that's more, it's like, well, now we're in Virginia, so this. Now we're in Maryland.
That's the funny thing. Like when I was driving across from the East Coast to Adelaide, which is where I went to college. G'day to anyone in Adelaide who's listening to us now.
I'll put them in the show notes.
They you would know, like when SAFM comes on the radio, you got about maybe 35, 40 minutes left of your drive. So that was coming home.
Cool. Oh yeah.
And you could kind of tell where you were if you'd done the drive a couple of times.
Oh my God. All right.
Dave, I think you absolutely clarified, and not that this theme is not given named by multiple characters, but the loneliness, dude. Like I am going to open my little segment I was looking at some Spotify playlists because unfortunately Spotify doesn't have the soundtrack to this movie. I wanted like the score as well as some of the pop hits. But in my desperate search, yeah, sure. In my desperate search, I found there's several Midnight Cowboy playlists, and I'm going to read what one of the descriptions says, because I think this is how I feel about this movie. I am once again crying about a dead, greasy New Yorker and a gay cowboy hustler. And it was just like, I had not seen this movie since college. And I've talked about this before, but like my goggles when I was acting and exclusively acting versus now, like thinking more about filmmaking, this was like a different movie. I remember the performances the first time I watched it. I remembered the plot, and I did not remember any of the work with montage. Like
same,
none of it.
100%. I agree completely. Yeah.
And I cannot. This is one of the best movies I have ever seen. Like I think I forgot that it was that good. I remembered how emotional I got the first time I watched it. I wasn't like tears streaming down my face, but I was so moved last night watching this movie. And I remember that their relationship was really at the core of it. But now just looking at the filmmaking aspects of it as well, this theme of loneliness, the way he deals with memory using montage in a subjective way is remarkable and experimental. It's not just what we can sometimes do with flashbacks and just like, let me show you a previous trauma or a previous time so that you'll understand emotionally where I'm at right now. They found a language of montage.
Yeah.
Starting when he gets on the bus, that very, in a fractured way, starts to introduce trauma, and it's not too linear with it. So you kind of start to these bits and pieces of who Joe Buck is based on the terrible things that have happened to him, that initially just start as like childhood sexual taboo and then build to very, very intense, sodomy and rape and these crazy things that come out of something that doesn't feel too literal. And that language gets used in the most effective way throughout. They somehow manage, and this is the magic trick I think of this movie, they somehow manage to use montage in a way that is exclusively reflective at the beginning of this movie, and it becomes hopeful by the end of it. The way they start, those moments where they start imagining what their life would be like.
Yeah.
Holy hell, dude. And the way that when those nightmares kind of blend, whenever like that one montage in the middle, when Joe Buck is first sleeping in Rizzo's apartment, and he sees Ratso coming at him in his different nightmares. That one's crazy. When Ratso Rizzo is watching Joe in the hotel, and he imagined the imagination of what their life could be like in Miami.
Yeah, you know, it's like, well, it's funny because I had a note about those, and I described them as like an interrupting LSD flashback that's interspersed with the imagery of what happened and the trigger at the same time.
Absolutely, dude.
So it's like whatever triggered him, like because at one point she's in a car driving down a New York street, or she's in the subway and stuff. So it's interspersed with where he is now, but you're getting the story, and it's done in a really clever way.
You're totally right. But I think something that I know I sound like a fucking old timer. I say this all the time, but part of me was lamenting last night that I'm just never going to get to make a movie like that. They just don't make movies like this anymore.
Jeff's
like this is too.
He's done.
I know Jeff is he said I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
One thing, like what you just said, the triggering of when they try to use those, the nature of this kind of filmmaking from that time period, it didn't need to be. It was pedestrian almost. The times where they would trigger those things, the way they would go in and out of his experience, it didn't feel like. Here comes the low rumble and swoop in and, something that was too indicative of now we'll go into one of these montages. And that language, I don't know, that language ended up working so well. It somehow managed to be every bit of his experience seemed to take on some kind of significance because you started to feel that you were bound to his trauma and his hopes all the time. And you weren't really sure if he was experiencing them when you were experiencing them or if you were feeling them on his behalf. I have some more things that I want to talk about technically, but Jeff, let me hear you talk, man, just because I can't believe it.
Like he went for a walk a minute ago.
I said, well, my fucking heater, like it's 60 degrees here, and my heater just came on, and I was like, what the fuck? I forgot that I turned it off because it was 60 degrees today.
Yeah, the opposite problem of our guys in the movie.
Literally the opposite. I had too much heat, too many amenities in my apartment.
That water freezing thing, by the way, I've seen that happen in real life.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm fascinated by what Dave's saying because I think I'm fascinated by what I completely agree with what John's saying, and I'm fascinated by what Dave's saying. So for me, I remembered the plot. I actually remembered too. I was like, oh, this is one of those movies. They're so old. The work is great. The scene works great. There's so much good shit, and then it ends quickly because they're just like, let me get out of here, blank, whatever. And it ends I remember it ending really fast. I remember that, and But what Dave's saying is what really caught me this time, which is this. It's nostalgia, but it's not nostalgia as in like mopey past. Like it makes me think about things from the past, but there's something that's so specific about these particular people that's so relatable that I almost remembered like being younger and being told like to watch these movies and then being taught like metaphor in script. Like the radio is obviously a huge metaphor. Like when he sells the radio, it's at this time in his life where it's like that's the last bastion of this optimism and hope he had from the past, and so he needs to sell it and then move on, and the little things like that. And then Dustin Hoffman's use of all these terrible words, but then later you see that montage of Miami, and you could sit there and dismiss it and be like, well, he said those words and he was this kind of person and he was whatever, and then you sit there and be like, wait, what? How did he use those words? And then this is his. So it's just the thought, the three-dimensional thought that comes into play here. I was ready to ask you guys, like, as cinematography experts, the montage was what really got me this time. Because, again, I knew the plot and the characters and the ending stuck with me. So I was going to ask, basically, why did the montages make me feel so much? Because basically, my big takeaway from this movie was,
because it's an assault.
Why did they cut so deep? Why is seeing Dustin Hoffman on the subway ride home in the John Voight horror montage when he realizes
where he's looking for him after he realizes he's got hustled, and it's right after Mr. Daniel's apartment. And those old like buddy cop TV shows fucked with these kind of montage ideas and turned them into gimmicks, but in this thing it was so visceral and powerful that we went from reality to dreamland,
where I'm in a daze. So you mentioned the LSD trip, which of course comes into play later, and that when he literally is tripping on what I imagine to be LSD. I was almost feeling that way just watching these montages, but not in the way that was like, ooh, reality's not real. But I'm like, I don't know what's real and what's not, but I feel what I think the character is feeling.
The
How do they
montages-
do this visually with no effects?
The montages were an assault. Basically, it didn't, like John said, you didn't get the whoosh guiding you into this is a montage. It grabbed you by the genitals and threw you down a fucking hallway. And so before you knew it, you were in the middle of something that you were not expecting, and it freaks you out.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was unsettling. And also they did lots of cuts like from extreme angles and stuff like that. A lot of overlaid footage, which really works for that sort of thing.
They were so emotional too. It wasn't just even though I agree with you, and I know what you mean, that they were like jarring and you're just kind of thrown into them. They never felt for the sake of just being jarring. You know what I mean? And just to throw us off. It always revealed something more about characters and relationships.
And it was just the perfect
amount. And I guess we should also say that
just the right amount too.
Just the right amount. And just so we don't only talk about that, these montages are interspersed between incredible relationship behavior work. Like the script is solid, but you have some really, really, really amazing acting and cinematography that we can't take away from the technical. The way the simple choices for how they move camera and capture these performances are great, but at the heart and soul of it are these two characters who desperately, it's just screenwriting 101. These two people who don't know it yet, but when they start to need each other, they need each other and they rely on each other. And just at the core of it, it's almost like a love story. It's like a companion story about how to not feel so lost. And that's why this movie is fucking relatable. Everything else is just the incredible icing that can escalate it to something like a true work of art, which I think this movie is. But at the core of it, I'm sure, I would imagine Schlesinger didn't pitch this movie to these two actors, especially like somebody like Dustin Hoffman, who was really big coming off The Graduate, as let me tell you about these montages I'm going to do.
Yeah, no.
He was probably like, this is a story about you guys.
A memorable thing. But yeah, I'm just going to turn the spoiler alert on because I feel like I want to go into spoiler territory and give people the option to skip this. Like,
here there be spoilers.
Just in case.
Sure.
But yeah, it's like the flashbacks are definitely a prominent part. But it's funny. I really did have a note written down, and it was an honest question. I wrote this just before a certain section. I'm like, why is this analyzed at film schools? Performance-wise, I can understand, but what is a cinematographer getting from this apart from excellent shot composition? And then the party scene happened. And I cut that note. And then I told everyone I cut that note on the show. So, I didn't really cut the note. But, my question was answered 30 seconds after. Once we went into that sequence, I was like, oh, there it is. Yep, this is some spectacular shit.
I mean, it's so the use of going in and out of video, in and out of 8 millimeter, like they were shooting on within the party.
Were those actors or were those real people? Because they looked like real people.
I wondered that the whole thing back in the day, where it's like if you could just move. Did you need permission? Like this came up all the time shooting.
I mean, there's famous stories about
there are rules like if you didn't have a tripod, you didn't even need a permit, so you could just fucking film people. Like if you're running around, so who knows?
Isn't the cab running into Dustin Hoffman? Isn't that a real?
On. Yeah, that's a real thing.
That actually happened.
Everybody talks about "I'm walking here," which is a great line. But what's even better is the cab driver yelling back at him.
Yeah,
that's something you
forget. That guy's not an actor. He ran the barricade.
Yeah,
not at all. And John Voight, by the way, John Voight being like, all right, like that's fucking cool.
That's an actor, man. They don't. It's like I don't stop acting till you go cut.
The big anecdotes with this, so there's two, and I'll say them both. And Hoffman has said both of these. So after The Graduate, he was such a household name, but Dustin Hoffman knew himself to be somebody that nobody gave a fuck about before The Graduate. He was doing one-man plays that nobody came to see. He was doing the St. Pacino shit where he was sleeping on couches and in theaters. And so when Schlesinger was doing this movie, he said he got in a meeting because obviously he's Dustin Hoffman, so Schlesinger's going to do it. So Hoffman said, "I want to be in this movie. I want to be fucking Ratso." And he said, "No, I want it has to be authentic because he was a real art house independent filmmaker, and I don't think he thought he was going to make tens of millions of dollars on this movie. And so Hoffman said, okay, well, I'll meet you at this point. It was all by phone. I'll meet you at this location. And I think he purposefully chose like 42nd Street or one of these places they mentioned, maybe by the Port Authority bus station, which is still looks like a shithole that even, like anyway.
It really is a shithole.
It is good to know now though why the AMC Times Square floor is sticky.
Touche. And he said, and he didn't shower for days, and he had long greasy hair and stuff, and he actually was pretending to be a homeless like male prostitute ever on the street, yelling and barking. And Schlesinger showed up to the appointment and didn't realize that Hoffman was right next to him. Didn't realize it, and so he went up and he said, "Hey," and Schlesinger said, "What?" And he said, "I've been here for 20 minutes. You didn't notice?" Because the whole point was like, after The Graduate, how could we possibly cast you in this role where you're supposed to be a homeless bum? And so therefore they went and talked and like, yeah, we got the role. But then he got the role before John Voight. And he said, I think John Voight's perfect for this. And he said, but he's not from Texas. And he said, okay, but I think he's great. He's an actor. He'll get the, and he's like, no, we need somebody authentic. And so Dustin Hoffman basically told John Voight, go figure the shit out. So John Voight took a radio that can record voices to Texas, recorded people around Texas in this specific accent. It took people around Texas, and then on the bus ride back, just like the character, but a little different, was practicing the sounds of the voices of the people he had heard, which, by the way, never happens anymore because everybody's today like, I'm a business. And it's like, okay, do you have 2 weeks to go to Texas and then come back practicing accents? Because that's the world we live in now. We live in the world, just tell me when the audition is and I'll show up. And this person went to fucking Texas.
Tell me when the audition is and I'll self-tape. That's where we are.
And I'm not putting down actors, but that accent is fucking wild, and it's one of the best Texas accents I've ever heard, and it is a bold Texas. There are more toned down. Even Matthew McConaughey's Texas accent is more toned down than this fucking accent, and he nailed it by doing this shit, by going there, and so therefore the authenticity. You don't even sit there and be like, wow, what a great acting performance by John Voight. So just like Rain Man, where Dustin Hoffman gets all the credit, John Voight, you don't even question it. But he is the one who had to be a cowboy. He had to be a fucking cowboy, and it's a non-issue. We put him off to the side. So I think one thing that sells this movie, we're talking about relationships. We're not talking about the fact that John Voight is not this guy. Dustin Hoffman's closer to his actor than John Voight is. So I want to like credit John Voight for fucking solidifying this, where we can take these actor things where everybody's talking about the acting performances and just throw them off to the side. Because what it comes down to is all the shit you're talking about, which is like the nitty gritty down to the work. Dustin Hoffman says he wants to keep the creeps and perverts out of his apartment that he's not paying for and has to sneak into because he's a fucking loner loser who doesn't have any money. But he doesn't want to have the losers and creeps in his apartment. I mean, the conundrum, and this is during Vietnam. So metaphor is fucking seething in this, but if you don't want to see it, you don't have to. The layering of this movie is one of the best, brilliant layerings I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, dude. And Dave, you said...
Thank you, Dave. Yes, I gush me out. I will now leave the stage.
You said that I want something as simple as transitioning to shots. I just want to talk about that really quickly. Because of the... It's not better. It's better or worse, but better for worse, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But just the nature of the serialized storytelling world we live in nowadays. A lot of times, we're trained and you think about how do I introduce and transition into a new scene, or for sure scene to scene, but even sometimes shot to shot if it's within a sequence. Something as simple as starting on a different subject and then moving your camera and finding your actual subject as they come towards you or enter or move away. That kind of language is dissipating. Just because I think we're in a time now where it really is much more important to hear what they're saying to move plot forward because of this serialized nature. And I guess I just want to compliment them for pulling it off so well, but also just kind of talk about what this kind of movie is a really good example of, I think, what we might be sacrificing by concentrating so much on plot and what we think of as character, but it's really like character proclamation in like a lot of our absolute very best streaming shows, because as much as you might want to just sit still and watch a performance, sometimes like in this movie, it was the way that I saw the camera drift into their life and away from them that actually made me feel something more about their circumstance.
I'm not sure that's 100% cinematographer. I think that's a close collaboration between director and cinematographer.
Well, I mean, we think about it all the time. I'll just credit both of them for sure.
Yeah, it might have been. I don't know. Sometimes the cinematographer will go, no, let's do this. And they go, yeah, it's a great idea. But I feel like this had collaboration because those drifts had purpose.
For sure. It
was like an establishing shot without an establishing shot. But you were seeing something you were supposed to see.
Okay, so let me equate it to something that we see more often now. And again, I'm not criticizing now. It's just interesting watching movies that pull off other styles and other languages that we now kind of see as dated or in the way. We still often celebrate oneers, like these big long like one shots and stuff. And we think of them as having an enormous amount of intention. But it's almost like we're at a place nowadays where a lot of the visual language that was established, honestly, by silent film people, that was experimented with throughout golden Hollywood for sure, like in the 40s and 50s, all the way up into the 60s, where this independent group of people who were in the States, but also people like Schlesinger who were coming from England, started taking a lot of those techniques and finding ways to, Dave, you even mentioned it, how they contrasted starting positions or camera angles within montage created an emotional, poetic effect. And nowadays, I feel like there's something, I've said it before here, guys, but it's almost like if we can sniff pretense or pretension at all nowadays, people put up their walls. And I guess I'm afraid that like we're limiting what we can accept as expression. It's like we're going to, if we were to make a movie like this now, I mean, this movie's brilliant. I hope it would break through. But I think some people might think that it's so expressive that it's more of an art film, when it's really just I think a lot of people would enjoy watching this movie.
There's pretense and there's clumsy pretense. I think you can still get away with pretense. It's just a lot of filmmakers today are doing it clumsily.
And maybe that's the truth too. Yeah, maybe this is just so fucking well executed that it feels organic. It feels honest. It feels like it belongs here. It doesn't just feel like it's for the sake of creating a crazy montage around a cowboy.
Sometimes it's like, I saw this in this film, I'm going to replicate it, but it doesn't have a reason to be there.
Question.
Sure.
Do either of you know for sure what the director's intention was in making this movie after having seen it? Because I think the answer is no, which is exciting.
Yeah.
I think, well, I would venture to say, though, and this is just kind of what I was saying about probably the conversations he was having with actors, within the specific lives the universal, right? The whole James Joyce deal that I think all artists, from the most pretentious artists to the greatest entertainers, understand. That is just a rule.
Yeah.
And I think he probably saw at the core of this is, if I can pull off two people who do not belong in the same world needing each other, I can explore anything. If I can pull that off, it is a doorway for me to express that in different ways. And by doing that, it can be metaphorical. It can speak to anybody from all walks of life. You don't need to be from this city to understand this kind of relationship, blah, blah, blah. So that might be the only thing I would venture to say. He saw an opportunity with something so simple, a single relationship. That is something, I don't think we can say that enough, you guys. There are incredible supporting scenes that I would love to talk about. Some of the tangential scenes where John Voight stumbles into these people's apartments are crazy. The way they film them, the storytelling, the acting.
Honestly.
Dude, nuts. I'm sorry, Mr. Buck. I know I deserve this. The man that he hits at the
oh my
that
God,
was incredible.
Yeah.
Mr. Daniel was unbelievable. The first sex encounter is unbelievable. Jeff, do you remember we used to wait tables on that woman? She used to come into the diner. The first hookup.
Brenda Vaccaro? No. Oh, Cass, like the one who plays Cass?
No, the rich one from the first time he has sex and she doesn't pay him.
Wasn't her name Cass?
Was it Cass? Anyway,
Sylvia Miles.
I do love that Western perception of New York hasn't changed since the 60s. Like, the women are rich and begging for it, and all the men are tutti fruttis. Like, I, for one, happen to love strawberry daiquiris. So
that's funny.
Sure. Anyway, I don't remember what I was fucking saying, but I think I was just saying at the center of it is something undeniably human.
The relationship that happens in that apartment reminded me a lot of Kiss of the Spider Woman.
Okay, but you were hesitant. Wait, you liked the movie, but you didn't like you liked the musical.
did
Wait.
not like the musical. The musical was ridiculous.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You played a clip of you hating on the musical, which was fair because that was horrible. But the movie you liked.
Yes.
Yeah, we liked that one a lot, didn't we?
Mm.
Yeah, Dave, good call, man. And those are, it's always fun to ask, like, what images or what moments from a movie will kind of become your snapshot of that movie. For me, those were the ones that I remembered. It might be different now, but when I was trying to recall this movie last week after we chose it, it is the moments in the apartment when he's cooking dinner for him. I just can't believe how much fucking life they squeezed out of like 5 or 6 scenes with them just like in this like 10 by 10 maximum space with nothing in it. Just 2 cots and a table. I mean, it's unbelievable. It was really incredible, which again takes me back to I think he understood from the jump. All I have to do is make these men seem honest. And if they can try to hide that from each other and then eventually reveal that to each other like 100%, I had completely forgotten that they get on the bus to go to Miami at the end of this. I did not remember that at all. I thought Dustin Hoffman died in New York. I thought the dream didn't come true at all. So when they finally got there, I know it's all classic storytelling, but I was so touched at the light returning in John Voight's eyes when he gets back on the bus. What are you doing? Well, I'm zipping up your fly. Come on, what do you think I'm doing? And he just sits back and says, Ratso, I think I got it all figured out. And he tells them about how he wants to get a regular job, support them. There's got to be an easier way to do this, right? Gone.
Yeah.
And his friend is gone. I mean, it's so simple. And of course that scene exists, but I just can't get over how simple the idea of these men's journeys
though,
were.
And being on the bus with all those people, it's so interesting.
What a fucking downer ending. I mean, sure, he went to New York, turned into a gay prostitute, did drugs and stuff, but nobody deserves Florida.
Locked and loaded, David. You're waiting on that one.
Yeah, I've been waiting to get to this. No, it's. I will say though, in that scene, because I watched this with my wife as well. She was like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to watch this," and then she was like on her phone. She kept peeking up over her phone. In the end, the phone goes down, and she was into it a little bit. Still some weird faces occasionally, but when we got to that bus scene, you're like edgy your seat. It's like, come on, buddy. Come on, just make it. Just get it. Wait, he's not going to make it through the night. Okay, he's made it through the night. He's not going to make it to Miami. Okay, we're at Miami. And like you started rooting for him to just fucking make it. And then when he finally just dies, like I knew it was going to happen.
Of course.
But then they do the whole thing with like close his eyes. And then it cuts back to just John Voight sitting there. And the look on that man's face was genuinely fucking heartbreaking.
Both of those shots when it cuts.
Well, just after he cuts his eyes and it sits there and the bus is he's like, well, we're going to drive on. There's nothing we can do. And as the bus drives in, the whatever he went through, and I'm wondering what he drew on for that because his face was fucking heartbreaking. And like, it is hard to get a reaction like that out of me because I'm cold motherfucker.
And that's a perfect example of like, folks, young filmmakers, if you're listening and you're trying to become better like I am, it ended emotionally with character perspective. That was a clean close-up, but the last shot is the filmmaker giving you their punctuation. It's a reflection. You get to see both of those men finally in fucking Florida. You see it through the reflection. They made it, and yet he's gone. And maybe John Voight has enough strength, but guess what? He's alone again. He's alone again. Oh my God.
If you want, draw some Vietnam allegories there. Like he carried him the final few steps.
Good call, dude. Beautiful.
I mean, and again, the metaphor, like if you want, and maybe this comes back to, maybe that's why I'm so interested about Dave's relatability being from Australia and just, anybody, because Hoffman's character is actually from
I just want to clarify as well, my Florida joke. The first place I lived when I moved here was Miami. So yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. But then all the people on the bus who are mostly older, so different generation, Vietnam, it's like, I don't want to overdo the Vietnam, but I'm going to go ahead and say John Schlesinger was against the war in Vietnam. I'm just going to guess, just take a wild guess about that. 1969. It's on the radio,
Feel good
so
about
it's not. It's not like they're pretending like it doesn't. It's literally on the radio at some point. They're not pretending that doesn't exist. And then he gets all the way there, and then he dies on the bus, and then they have to pretend like he didn't die, and then they have to move on. And then it's like there's, and then you don't see John Voight come back. You don't see him get his clothes. You don't see him get his stuff from that hotel. None of that. It ends.
You don't see him put sunglasses on him and go full Weekend at Bernie's.
Weekend at Bernie's was definitely on my mind when he was like dressing him up for sure. So
two things.
it's there if you want it. It's there if you want it. If not, then it's basically like, okay, the movie needs to end. Fine, that can be your journey if you want. But I just think it's so artistic the way that's done.
It's there if you want it. Good call, dude. Yeah, I mean that's something we battle with all the time, right? How do you you want to send a message? Use Western Union, the old Hollywood adage, but like the really good entertainment, it's there if you want it. It's underneath the layers.
That reminds me, I have a question. Finish your thought, and I have a question.
Don't forget it, because I wanted to say two things. I'm afraid I'm going to forget one of them if I don't say them both. I just wanted to talk about like there's basically the rule in screenwriting that a scene should either develop character, world, or move the plot forward. Hopefully, it's doing more than once. Jeff, you and I used to bitch and complain and talk about this like from the actors of that generation when we were in college, but it almost feels like, I've never read the book, but it almost feels like these kinds of movies that were made then had faith that if you care about character and world, plot will come. Plot is just this fucking shitty consequence that is inevitable when you get two people dealing with each other. That scene when when he gets invited to the party, when they're in that diner and the two people walk up and take the picture and all that was a scene where I was like, what the hell are they doing? I'm trying to imagine just on the day, they're like, what's this scene about? They're sitting there having all these conversations, justifying it to the studio or whoever's financing. Why are you shooting this thing? Isn't there an easier way to give them a fucking invitation to the party? Can't they just see it on a window or something? It's like, no, but I want to have these guys just talking with each other. I want to see them dealing with each other. I want to see Voight get chosen, and I want to see the first fringes of Ratso Rizzo being left behind, which leads to this wonderful, idea of, okay, ooh, there's something here. Let's pull at that thread. And it may have led to that terrible, the way they portray him throughout the party sequence and afterwards is crazy, the beginning of his total decline.
Oh yeah, when you can't follow the stairs. Oh my God. And the cab, yeah.
Did anybody else, like that apartment party, like did anyone else think that was what John's engagement party was going to be like?
Oh yeah, God, I wish. Yeah, did you? Holy shit. Can you imagine? I wish.
Who filmed it? Who is going to film it?
Everybody has a camera.
I can't remember the second fucking thing, but I don't know. I just
that was one thing.
Jeff, did you get that sensation though? Yeah, the character thing versus character over
the party scene that I wanted it to be your engagement party, or
no, not just that. Just the idea of like character first. That they made movies back then character first, and that's why the acting. That's why the entire zeitgeist of acting was so different back then.
So I'm going to go back. Wait, you finish your thought, and then
I've fucking said too much already. What do you think?
No, you didn't. I would say I want to know more about Rizzo because he uses the 6-letter F word a lot, which is some of what Dave was alluding to before about the language. And yes, it's not great. The Stonewall riots, the 6-letter F word is used a ton by Rizzo, and at the same time he might be one based on that montage. It's very possible, and maybe not. Maybe he just wants companionship and he wants to hang out with old ladies and play bingo with them, but it seems like it's possible that he is. And there's an old sort of kind of crutch where if you're against it really hard, it's because you're trying to hide from yourself, etc. So it's possible that that's the case. So because they're so confident with their characters that they can not have to spell it out for us, I feel like nowadays they have to make it clear what a character is, what they feel, what their thought is, what their their personalities are, what their wants are. This is so unclear. But at the same time, I feel like I know Ratso Rizzo, where if he walked in right now, if Dustin Hoffman walked in as Ratso, I would say, I know exactly who you are. You are Ratso Rizzo from Midnight Cowboy. I wouldn't need any plot. I wouldn't need any circumstance. I wouldn't need a where. I don't need to ask him if he's from the Bronx. I would know the second I saw him, the second I felt him. So it's this idea that you write to the feel, like who they know their characters so well that they don't have to. Yeah, I guess the plot's a bonus. Now, of course, the plot can help us discover character sometimes, so it's not right. Don't you think? Like it's not a rule that like the plot doesn't matter, of course. But when you know your characters so well, and yes, the book is there, but at the same time, they always have to modify the book for these movies, so you never know what you're going to get in the film version of this. But yeah, and that's why I keep going back to John Voight, because we're not talking about his character. And I mean, what happened with him and that girl? What happened? We don't even know, but we know him. So yeah, I mean, it's just one of those movies you watch it 10 times and feel 10 different things, but you still feel like you know them every time.
Totally, man. You're totally right. Sometimes folks, when we're choosing what movie to watch, we'll say like, oh, that's probably too good of a movie. It's too famous. You know, we're just going to end up praising it. When the movies are this good, you end up talking about yourself and talking about how you feel. There's so many layers that like you can't just praise it, because to begin, or even just approaching, like having a conversation about it, you end up kind of deconstructing what you think of as possible. It's movies like this that remind you that like, I forgot you were allowed to do that, or I didn't know you were allowed to do that. I really haven't felt this way about a movie in a while. What kind of genre? Did you guys just say a drama? What genre?
Yeah, this would be straight up. I mean, straight up drama. There's a little bit of comedy in it, but I would say straight up drama.
There's a lot of good comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's very fucking dramatic, and I know there's a lot of sexual elements
but there
in
are
it.
definitely
like,
some laugh out loud lines in it.
Oh my God. And that Bob, guys, I remembered very early on in this movie, I was like, is this the movie with that Bob Balaban scene? That Bob Balaban, but if you know your, guys, Bob Balaban, come on. You know your Bob Balaban. That scene is so good. And then when they're in the bathroom and he says, the first time he says, I don't have it, it's like you think you know where that scene is going to go. But God, John Voight, his empathy, he has so much empathy. It's like, I mean,
the
Bob
four
Balaban breaks my heart.
Johns. I guess they're not four Johns. First, it's Mr. Daniel, who he thinks is a pimp, and then it's Bob, and then it's isn't there another man between them and the final dude who he steals from?
Oh, the poor guy that he beats the shit out of. Yeah.
I just can't imagine like how much fun it would have been to cast that. And those are the kind of scenes, I guess, also what I'm talking about. Like I would imagine that if I was writing the screenplay, I would just be like, these are solid gold scenes, because I get to show you his arc when he's alone with these people. He doesn't have accountability to Ratso. He doesn't really tell him every detail of what happens in those encounters. They're just us with him. And each time he gets pushed further and further to a breaking point. And I know that sounds so simple. We could write shitty versions of these scenes, but they gave themselves permission to say, let's see what happens if we really let these characters live. Let's make sure these Johns have a perspective, even if basically every single one of them has the objective of not paying him. That's understandable. That's simple. But how do we make a character actually have a specific reason for not doing that? And let's make sure that nuance and that personality is why John Voight has to evolve. Each one of them gets more and more difficult to be angry at, until this last guy might be, Bob Balaban is a pretty weak character, if you will. Like, please don't take my watch. My mom's going to kill me. I'm not saying he was like a strong man or anything, but definitely. I thought it was interesting that the very last John was the weakest man. He was the most subversive and
he said,
submissive.
Thank you. Oh my God, the way he was saying thank you.
Thank you, John.
That was very much like the Zoo story, Edward Albee, same time period.
Really remarkable. I don't know, guys. I'm sorry.
I know.
The question I was going to ask before, when it first started, when he's getting ready and the camera pans out on that drive-in, is that the drive-in from Back to the Future 3? When he's getting in the cowboy gear to go back in time? Because it looked a lot like it, minus the wall.
That would be a great tip of the cap by Schlesinger for sure. Or not by Schlesinger. Zemeckis. Hey, I'll say last thing too.
Very fucking similar.
Again, back to the metaphor. He didn't get any money from any of the guys.
Not without. He stole it, right?
He stole it from the guy, yeah. And then Ratso, who may very well fall into that category, even though he pretended like he was not. Although he seemed to be able to spot them very well. He ended up losing money. He gave it back to them. I don't know. You can think about this kind of shit the whole time. Dave, any other like personal, anything that's you want to tear your soul out? Anything else that this movie did? Because I feel like that was so interesting what you said at the beginning.
No, I think that's about it. I will say though, there was one tracking shot when he first got to New York, and they just came in on his feet walking across the crosswalk. And my fucking thought was like, damn, that would have been hard to hold, because they're tracking on walking feet on a zoomed in lens. It's like, yeah.
I didn't want to make this. Also, the ice spot keeps the roaches from getting your food. That's a really funny little thing. Again, from this guy who tells all the people, he's like, "Fucking creeps, go to work." Says this homeless hustler.
I'm not
John
saying...
Voight saying, "I'm a hustler" to Dustin Hoffman's character, who's a fucking hustler. It's. Sorry,
it's not like I'm saying like I lived in a hole. Like when I first like moved in with John, I didn't have.
I wasn't there yet to be
anything. Fair. So for the first, I want to say 3 weeks when I came back.
That is not hyperbolic, folks. He literally had
nothing.
Nothing on the floor.
I slept on piles of clothes on the floor.
How do I sleep with those women for money? That's what he said.
So like, I feel like I've lived their New York life a little bit.
Honestly, you have, dude. Dave, that was you. That was you right there.
Yeah, I'm taller than all you fuckers too.
One of the most famous, classic,
so
like kind of
good. Yeah, Neo from The Matrix has nothing on that.
Yeah,
dude. I'm so happy we chose this, you guys. Last week, we should tell the listeners that 1969 is not overwhelmed with amazing movies that everybody should watch. I've never seen They Shoot Horses, Don't They? I've never seen one or two others that I wasn't like dying to see. Like this isn't one of those years that's just
said,
like,
please do not.
Anyway,
and we saw Easy Rider.
I'm so happy we chose this one. I cannot believe how good of a watch I had. It was really invigorating, inspirational.
Pluto
Everybody
and
who has
Tubi.
not seen this in a while should watch it.
Pluto and Tubi, it's for free.
Or rent. Give us some money.
Or rent.
Guys, can you remember? Also, last little thing is how. I'm not saying I don't want to see everybody credited who deserves to be credited, but God, those short end credits. Remarkable.
Oh yeah, so short.
It's just like you really get to. You're still feeling the end of the movie by the time the credits are done.
Yeah,
I miss that sensation.
The lights are up and you have to face your peers.
Oh wait, I'm fucking pissed. I watched some really moving TV recently, and it would always be like stalker, neighbor, kill. It would immediately go to the trailer for that, and I'm like, I'm not done with this movie yet. Don't tell me about a fucking stalker documentary. Give me a break.
Yeah.
When that guy on the phone with the first person who he doesn't pay. Or he actually gives money to, when he says, "Say hello to baby," and it's the dog, and he's like, "Hello, yeah, goddamn dog."
Yeah, goddamn dog. Yeah.
And then also the religious commercials on the radio where he's like, "She coughed up 2 malignant tumors because she donated $10."
Yeah. That was good. Thank you. That was the second thing. I swear to God, I'll shut up after this. But this was, yes, Dave was right. It eventually got this infamous X rating because it had so much to do with sex. But of course they knew this was going to deal with sex. The theme is right there. I don't know if John Schlesinger planned on showing all the flashbacks of the rape and everything. But we knew in the screenplay for sure there was a sex scene with the first time he finally scores with an older woman when he gets to New York City.
Yeah.
And how did they choose to film that? So creative. Yes, there was a little bit of nudity, some butts, some nipples, both of them, but having him roll the very first time he shows prostitution, he turns the camera on the world audience and shows us our fucking prostitution for commercialism. And he has them rolling on this fucking, what an interesting creative way to deal with your first sex scene for a movie about sex. And I just thought that was just like unbelievable genius.
Also,
I can't believe it. It was funny and effective.
You do that in the modern day though, you'd never find the fucking remote control again.
All right.
Fuck you.
People, go watch Midnight Cowboy on Pluto and Tubi. Tell your friends and family, and then have them listen to our podcast. So good talking to you about Midnight Cowboy 1969, but it's getting to that point of the episode. We have to move on to our final segment. Well, almost our final segment of the night. We're going to spin the wheel, do what you've been watching, and then at the very end, we're going to tell you what we're going to do next week as
where
a
are we
of the week.
Going?
So let's see, Dave. Spin the random year generator. First decade of the 2000s. First decade of the 2000s. Oh. 2002. We are not doing it. We are not doing the second Star Wars movie. That's for goddamn sure. Although Two Towers came out this year. I think Chamber of Secrets came out this year. Interesting year. Okay, so 2002. We're going to tell you. We're not going to sit here and Google it. We're going to tell you at the end of our episode what we're talking about next week on the show. But first, let's finish this part up with what you've been watching. Dave, we like to start with you. You've been busy as fuck, working your ass off.
I have been, but in between, we're still working our way through The Mentalist because it's just a fun, nice little procedural. And he's like Simon Baker is very quirky and cheeky, and it's fun to watch. So yeah, we're still going on through that.
John?
Nice. I finished. I think I told you guys that I had started Mayor of Easttown. Did I say that last time?
The second
Finished
season, or
it. There's 2 seasons.
no?
I thought it was a limited
The
series.
second season has already come out.
What?
Dude, I'm
Mayor
telling
of
you,
Easttown?
He's like, fuck, I gotta go.
it blew my mind. But I'm telling you, the next
I'm really
one,
surprised that HBO didn't just take me to it right after I finished
Hold on, let me see.
Are you sure, dude? I thought
Are
that
you
was a
thinking of
limited
the other one?
series.
Can we cut this out?
No.
No. But you're talking about the next Kate Winslet HBO series that I also want to see. I keep seeing
Well, there's
billboards for it all over town.
I swear I saw another fucking Mary this time.
He's forgetting John's
Dude, I
home.
don't think so, dude.
Fuck!
It's limited, bro. Anyway, I'll just eat up stories like that, dude. Small towns, gritty detective,
So good.
a lot of fucking humanity, amazing acting. Bravo, every single person involved with that show. I fucking loved it. And then I started Love and Death, that Elizabeth Olsen and
Oh yeah.
who's the guy? Oh, God damn it, you guys, from Breaking Bad and Power of the Dog and Friday Night Lights. What's his name? God
Power
damn it.
Dog. Oh, Jesse Plemons.
Jesse Plemons, and so it's really
Serial
good. What a
killer
fun-
Landry.
I did not know anything about that story. I totally didn't watch that when it came out and didn't hear
Oh,
anything
that
about
looks
it.
so interesting. Yeah, for sure. Lily
It's
Ray.
fun. You guys would really enjoy watching that. It's a good time. So yeah, I'm in that space right now. I'm in that limited series HBO space, and who
I'll be there
doesn't
soon.
love that shit?
I'll be
Yeah,
there,
I
I'll be
mean,
there
they-
soon.
They do a limited series better than I think anyone.
Well,
Absolutely, dude. You are
and-
totally fucking right.
Anything else? Well, you saw Dune too. So Angela and I have been on a
Saw Dune
little
too.
bit of a nostalgia kick. So we rewatched Are You There, God?
Oh, real fast. Hold on, wait, before you keep going. Elizabeth watched that show you recommended, the one that you said made you all emotional, the Netflix one,
One Day, yeah.
and she finished it last night. She was upset, dude. It made her very sad. That last
I'm coming for you, bro.
Yeah.
she said it was very moving and very emotional and very, very
Yes.
sad.
Awesome. I love the review. Elizabeth, can't wait to
Anyway,
meet you.
keep
Okay.
I can see you getting off the plane in LA and she just walks up and kicks you in the nuts.
I'll take it. I will gladly take it. We've been on a nostalgia kick. So we rewatched the Danny DeVito directed Matilda, starring his then
Nice.
wife Rhea Perlman, of course. And Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. A little rewatch going on here.
Oh,
It's
God.
good film.
Man,
Really fun.
really likes that one.
Cool.
Concord, my town. So
have I
weird.
watched any TV shows? Nothing new. Nothing.
And
new
Drive to
so far.
Survive. I'm catching up, of course, on Drive to Survive.
Oh, yeah,
Always
that's
fun.
right.
Really
That's right.
cool.
That's right. And
Two
then F1's
amazing
back.
in the first 2 or 3 episodes. 2 amazing car adjustment stories. They never show them upgrade their cars. And I thought they did such a good job. They finally showed
We spent
you,
a lot
2
of time
teams
on
that,
Aston. Yeah, we spent no time with Max, who's the winner. Yeah, so we're pretty close to the end of that. F1's back, baby.
fun.
Like on Star
fun
Trek
stuff.
where they never show him go to the toilet.
Nobody.
just-
they
just
solved
Star
that
Trek?
problem, Dave.
Just Star
They
Trek.
solved that problem.
It's every
Can you guys
show
wait
ever.
till we don't have to use the bathroom anymore? Gonna get so much more done.
Just beam it out.
All right, people, we're going to take a 3-second break. We're going to play some Dasein, and then we are going to tell you what we're going to be
Beam it
talking about from the year 2002 very, very soon, which means we got to make a quick decision after IP. We'll talk to you in a second, film fans.
What?
And we're back.
Jesus.
All right, 2002. Guys, 2002 is an unbelievable
2002
movie year.
slaps.
Okay. John, trying to talk like the kids that he
Like a
TAs over
child.
there at USC Film School. We are going to be
Like a
talking
kid.
about a fantastic film. Now, we should also say, like the original Spider-Man, I like to shout out Ice Age, Catch Me If You Can, Val Schmidt. So many great movies came out in 2002. We're going to give you the whole scoop next week, but we are not talking about any of those. We are talking about, what are we talking about, Dave? You're excited about this.
Spike Jonze's adaptation.
Spike Jonze's adaptation, which won 1 Oscar. What was that Oscar?
have
I just said it.
Never seen this.
Ah!
We'll
What
get
was
it for Charlie Kaufman too, since it's kind of his
Oh, we love
screenplay
Charlie
and
Kaufman.
his world. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think the next movie after being John Malkovich.
Yep, it is. It's
Nicholas
about
Cage
that.
playing identical
Right.
twins, Meryl Streep and Chris Cooper, who won an Oscar for this movie. Chris Cooper.
And
Let's
this
go.
one's a rental, or you can watch it on Philo, whatever that is.
go. The Orchid Thief, people. Go ahead and read the New Yorker piece while you're at it. The New Yorker piece, The Orchid Thief. Dave, I saw your eyes look for that buzzer, Dave. I saw it. You went, buzzer. No, I'll let him off the hook.
No, I was hitting the clip button.
All right. Adaptation next week, film fans. I wrote an essay about this one time. I'm going to read the whole essay on our episode next week.
I have a feeling we're doing a lot of listening, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
See
Next
you
week,
later.
Jeff's film school.
And I'm going to sound like a total asshole. See you next week.
Good.
Fans.